Hello there everyone, I'm Samson from Ross IELTS Academy.
And this is Mehrnoosh from Ross IELTS Academy.
Now why have we gathered here today? Basically, we're going to play a little game. It's going to be a speaking game. There you go.
Okay, so we have some topics here. Okay. I'm just going to pick one.
Ooh, let's see what topic you can...
It's about reading.
Oh, you got one about reading. Cool.
I'm not going to skip this topic. I like it. So here you go.
Thank you very much. Good for you, Mehrnoosh. All right, here we go. Question number one.
You can have a paper here. So if you want to write anything,
I can
any
analyze
mistakes I make.
Sure. All right, here we go. All right, question number one.
Okay.
Do you often read?
To be honest, I used to read a lot when I was a university student because I had more time and I used to go to many different libraries. But since I am an instructor now and I'm studying all the time, I have so many time-consuming tasks. So, yep, I can say I don't read much because I don't have the time.
Okay. So, do you have any ebooks?
As I told you, I'm an instructor and also a master's student, so I should have a lot of books. But since I cannot afford to buy them all, then I would prefer to download them online. And yep, because it doesn't take much space and it's easy to read. Nice one.
So, what books did you read as a child?
When I was a child, I had a quite different taste. Just like other kids, I used to read storybooks, but I can say that I used to do it because it took me to a new world, and I would say that's a good choice for many kids to read different books.
Nice one. So do you think it is important to encourage children to read?
Absolutely yes, because children should be trained from an early age to read different books by their parents or the teachers at a school, because it helps them, on one hand, it helps them to improve some of their abilities, and on the other hand, they will also have something positive and practical to discuss when they're with their friends. Nice one.
Okay, thank you very much. That is the end of your special game.
Oh, are we done?
We're done. We are done. You're going to hit me with one now, aren't you?
Yes, but don't you want to analyze my speaking, what I did right now?
If you insist, I'll do it right now. Okay, so I love the way you started with the way she, the way Mehrnoosh was answering, and she directly answered the question and then she gave reasons for her answer, and it was followed by elaborating on the answer, and that's a very good thing. Even though, guys, these questions are, you can answer them kind of short and sweet, but you do have to elaborate on some of the answers and, just give a good conversation for your examiner. That's exactly what Mehrnoosh did.
That's right. Sometimes I didn't have an answer to the question, like I didn't really remember what books I used to read when I was a child.
Right.
But as I told you, I wasn't truthful. I just said something. Not something relevant to the answer.
Something relevant to the answer, so who cares if it's true or false? If I'm the examiner, I'm not going to check if she was telling the truth or not. The important thing was she answered the question and she elaborated, so yes. Very well done.
Okay, anything else, Mr. Samson?
Anything else? Well, I liked your use of vocabulary as well. And, well, you had a few ums here and there, but if you have one or two, it doesn't really matter.
Was it language related or content related?
No, it wasn't language related. You have to be fair here, because Mehrnoosh, she has a very good use of the English language, very good command of the language actually, but she was looking maybe for an idea or two.
So if you're looking for an idea and you hesitate, you pause, that's okay. But if you are looking for some structures and words, then
that's language related, and
it will lower your score.
That will be a problem, definitely. So I'm going to hand this over to you.
Thank you very much, and you can just pick a topic. Don't look at the box. Just pick one.
Lucky dip. Okay. I'm looking. I'm not looking. I got one. Okay. It's transport. Well, you know what? I am not going to skip this topic. I'm going to answer the questions.
Okay.
So I'll just... I'm not supposed to look at that? Okay. I didn't see anything.
So we can start with the first question, Samson.
Go ahead.
How did you come here today?
Well, I actually took a cab because I don't trust public transport that much because there's too much traffic, you know, with the buses, and trains is always a problem too. So I prefer to get to my destination on time, which is why I took a cab.
Okay. And what is public transport like in your town?
In my hometown, public transport is actually very efficient because we have all different types of transportation. We have trains, buses, trams, and the metro system. We call it the London Underground in the UK, or the Tube. It's full of different lines and different junctions and interchanges, so you can be sure to get to any destination you want around the capital city.
Okay. And how do you think it could be improved, the public transport?
If I were to improve the public transport in London particularly, I would make sure that these rails on public transport, trains or tube, that they refurbish them a little bit and make sure that they're not so bumpy, and make sure all the wagons are up to date. They put on new models and make sure everything's clean, and particularly the stations, because the stations can get pretty dirty and there's not enough oxygen.
Do you think people should use public transport more?
I believe if the public transport situation is efficient and everyone can get to their own destinations and there's enough stations on these metro systems or enough bus routes, then why not? Of course, it has to be cost effective. If public transport is cost effective, I believe more people would use them and they'll have good reason to use them.
Okay, thank you very much. We are done with the first part.
Oh, I'm
Great.
relieved actually. Oh, so how did I do?
Wonderful. But we should talk about some different things because we can just teach something, want to teach something to our candidates.
Right.
So, it was great. Samson gave very good answers to the questions because he sounded natural. Even if he didn't take a cab or take a taxi to come here, or even if he doesn't have the idea that we talked about the public transport, doesn't matter. He just sounded natural, and you had a very good use of complex structures. He used conditional sentences or relative clause, or like a good use of boosters. You shouldn't answer the question right away, right? You can maybe say, for example, well, actually, to answer your question, and you used them very well.
Oh, thank
you
you.
gave me examples of different types of public transport. So you covered your answers. At times, some of your answers were a bit long because you should be careful to cover your answers in part one between 2 to 3 sentences, not very short sentences. You can use complex structures, but yeah, that would work. That would do.
I'm a bit of a chatterbox, which is why I did
Yeah, and
that.
that's why sometimes I stopped him for some questions because I wanted to ask him the next question.
Here it goes. Describe a memorable journey you have made. Oh,
Okay.
a memorable journey you have made. You
I
ready
can
to
talk
look
about it. Yeah. I have had a lot of different experiences, different trips, so I can talk
Okay,
about
so
one.
I'm going to give you this cue card,
Okay.
and I would need a pen and paper.
Sure.
Actually, you're
Me
going to
too.
need. You're going to
Me
need
too,
it.
Yeah.
You're
So
gonna-
you can analyze me.
Yes. No. First, yeah. You can. I'll have the piece of paper. You have the pen and paper.
Yes,
so make
yes.
notes. That's something you guys could do too. Just make notes. Get a pen and paper.
Yeah, just get a pen and paper
Practice.
right now.
Practice with us. Okay, so Mehrnoosh now has 1 minute to make notes, and I'm going to give her that time limit. 3, 2, 1, go ahead.
Okay.
Okay, that's the 1 minute up. You may start speaking for the 2 minutes. That's right, thank you
You're
very
welcome.
much.
Here
the
you
cue
are.
card, and now I'm going to make notes of what Mehrnoosh is going to do. So you have 2 minutes. You ready?
Yes.
Up for it? Okay. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Go ahead.
Okay, so I would like to talk about a trip I took. It was about 3 years ago, I guess. I decided to go to South Korea, Seoul, because I was awarded a scholarship from the university when I was a bachelor's student. And because of that, I remember it was the last semester of my studies. I'm not sure if it was 3 years ago, but yeah, it was a couple of years ago. So I decided to take the opportunity and go on this trip. And after I went through the visa process and all that stuff, I found myself in the airport, getting on the airplane and thinking about a new future and some different plans for my, the upcoming days and months. If I want to talk about the way I traveled, I can say that I took the airplane just like any other person traveling from one country to another country. As I recall, it was a very bumpy flight. There were so many turbulences, but it was fine. I was fine. And as soon as I got there, I felt a bit nervous because it was kind of a new experience for me and I had no idea what was going to happen. Therefore, I just decided to make some new friends and make this trip unforgettable for myself. I would say that was a really unique experience because I got the chance to meet people from different backgrounds and nationalities, and that was just wonderful, I can say. Yeah. So I can also add that.
Oh, thank you very much. That is the end.
Okay.
That is the end of
what happened here.
What happened there? She almost ran out of things to say. But then Mehrnoosh remembered that she does have to speak for up to 2 minutes.
And he was still looking at me like, go on.
Yes, I was like, please, just continue. You only have a few seconds left. So it is very important to complete the 2 minutes. She just about did it. All right, let's go into some details of some useful techniques you use there. First of all, before I go into the related topic, I'd like to say something I think is quite important for everyone. Now, even though Mehrnoosh speaks English as a second language, she thinks in English when she wants to speak.
Really important. Don't translate the stuff.
Never do that, because guys, if English is not your mother tongue, okay, I probably wouldn't have that problem because English is my mother tongue. Yeah. But Mehrnoosh, on the other hand, she thinks in English and she speaks in English. So when you're doing that, your structures are going to be more correct and fixed. If you're thinking in your mother tongue, trying to translate, oh goodness me, how am I going to say that in English? You're going to give your brain an extra burden and it's going to come out wrong because different languages have different structures of grammar.
So you wouldn't be able to use the correct expressions and collocations, and the examiner wouldn't really understand what you say.
And you're definitely not going to sound natural or coherent. So that's a very important point.
And
so
what is your suggestion for those who want to just think in English?
A very good point there. How do you think in English and not think in your mother tongue? Before the test, I would say, listen to a podcast in English.
That's right.
Is that a good thing?
You can warm up your mind.
Warm up your mind and then practice a few phrases, perhaps complicated ones too, if you feel comfortable doing that.
Yes.
So you warm up your brain to think and speak in English and English only.
Yeah, and you can also watch a lot of movies, listen to podcasts, not only before the test, but also maybe some years or some months or some days before the exam. It will just help you think in that language.
You're going to naturally think in English rather than your mother tongue. So that's something very important to think about.
Anything else you would like to?
There's a lot of things I'd like to say about your 2-minute talk. Now, I know you're a bit tired today, but you stayed focused. And you know what? I love the way you used complex vocabulary related to the actual topic. At the same time, you were paraphrasing and you were basically proving to the examiner how how complicated you can get and showing off your wide range of vocabulary. So that will definitely raise your
and
band score.
complicated, complicated structure, complicated sentence does not necessarily mean a long sentence.
No.
Because sometimes the problem is that many candidates, Samson, when we are holding mock tests,
Yes.
they're trying to use complex structures. So they
Yeah.
think, okay, I should make this long sentence. And because they are not really good at grammar or like
Yes.
complex structures, they forget about the first part of the sentence and they do not manage to do that.
I would suggest for people who are doing that, think more about your story and the bullet points and think about maybe off topics, something that can keep you going rather than trying to structure an extremely long sentence that you're not comfortable with. So, as Mehrnoosh was talking about long sentences and phrases, that's something I'd like to talk about here. She used lovely details. She kept going into her details and elaborating on her story. That's something that the examiner is very much going to like.
Yeah, like I talked about the moment I was at the airport, it wasn't really necessary to talk about that, but since I didn't really have many ideas to talk about, and I was just a bit worried not to be able to cover all the bullet points, I went off the topic. And also I tried to use some collocations related to flights and airports.
And the actual travel, and she did that quite successfully. And when you were actually running out of something to say, you did come up with your subtopic, so she did have a topic ready, an off topic to carry on talking about, or something that's branching off from the main thing.
We have 4 questions here for you, Samson.
Okay.
So we start with the first question. How can people improve their health?
Well, that's something that's, I think, a question meant for a lot of specialists. But if I'm going to think about how people around us can improve their health, I believe they could do a lot more exercise and watch what they eat, because everything we eat nowadays is not necessarily healthy. It's very important to keep track of what kind of vitamins and nutrients we are consuming. So I believe it's very important for everyone to look at these things. Have a good time of, just set your timetable. I think it's a very good idea if people set their timetable of how they sleep. Sleep is very important. They say you should get 6 to 8 hours sleep a night. That goes for adults. But as far as food is concerned, I would say definitely people should have set meals and watch the timing of their meals and do some exercise.
Okay, great. Do elderly people do much exercise in your country?
Well, that's a very challenging question in my opinion, because I don't really look at what old people are doing these days. Elderly people, if I want to speak more formally and politely. I believe they do some exercise when they retire. So I'll give an example, like my father-in-law. He does some exercise. He gets up and walks for about 5 minutes. He goes for a little walk. But then he sits down and he says, I've done my exercise. I strongly think that he could do a lot more of that exercise and actually extend it to maybe 20 minutes. So that's an example of someone who's in their senior years.
And Samson, do you think all illnesses can be prevented?
That is a question that no one can answer, in my opinion, because if you look at what we're going through today, we've helped prevent a lot of illnesses, we've helped treat a lot of diseases, but now we've got new diseases coming out like SARS-CoV-2 or coronavirus, or the people call it COVID-19 as well. And this is a virus that people haven't been able to prevent yet, this kind of a virus. But lots of things have been stopped and prevented, like different types of flu, maybe certain types of cancer as well. But I think it's a very challenging activity, and I think scientists really need to look more into what causes diseases.
Okay, and my last question, do you think there will be less illness in the future?
That is something that I find very hard to answer if I think about it just for 1 minute or a few seconds. But I think there'll still be a lot of diseases in the future, because if you look like I said in the previous question, what's happening now is that we've managed to prevent a lot of diseases. We've helped treat a lot of horrible illnesses, but then you've got the new ones coming about, and diseases, they have this ability to mutate, and it's very hard for scientists and doctors to keep up with. So I don't think we will be able to prevent all diseases in the future, if I'm going to answer your question, frankly.
Okay, thank you very much. We're done with your questions now.
Thank you.
Great, so let's see what Samson did.
What did I do?
Samson, I love the range of vocabulary you have
Thank
in your
you.
speaking. You can learn a lot from Samson here because...
She's too kind.
Oh, no.
You're
I'm just being honest because he uses a number of different collocations and vocabulary.
So do you.
Thank you. Related to the topic. And he never stops. Like even if he doesn't have any idea about the question I'm asking him to talk about, he doesn't stop. He uses some boosters related to, like, for example, I don't know how to answer this question. This is a question nobody can answer. Like, for example, number...
Which one was it?
3.
Yeah, I did that,
do you
didn't I?
think all illnesses can be prevented? Okay. He was like, no one can answer this question. But he didn't stop by saying, I don't know. Then he just gave me another example, more examples. He went a little off the topic.
A little bit off topic, but into the idea. That's just another way you can get through these questions. Just keep the conversation going, because it is a back and forth conversation if we're talking about Part 3 IELTS speaking.
And about question number 2, I asked you, do elderly people do much exercise in your country? He was like, yes or no. He was not really sure about the answer.
Sure.
Then he just referred to a good example of his
father-in-law, that's right, yeah.
So he explained a little about his father-in-law, and then he kept talking about something a little more related to the question here.
That's right.
So that was really good.
I did my best.
Also, you can use complex structures just like Samson. Like he makes some long but correct sentences. As you know, complex grammatical structure is not only about long and complicated sentences which are incorrect, but you should instead be able to make and use them accurately.
Use them accurately.
Yeah.
And the best way you could do that, in my opinion, is just I wasn't rushing too much, if you noticed. I was comfortable with what I was talking about, but the slower you go, not too slow, because you have to be fluent and
you're
coherent.
a native speaker, you can manage to speak fast, but everyone should be careful.
Don't rush.
Don't rush, don't speak very fast, because you will lose your confidence and
you'll fall about a lot of things. You don't want to fall off the rails. Just imagine yourself when you're talking that you're a train on these rails. You want to keep it smooth. You don't want to just waddle here and there back and forth. You want to stay smooth. Keep the conversation going, but smooth.
Yeah, so you should be careful with your structure. Try to use some conditional sentences, relative clause, compound sentences, and all these different structures.
And try to speak up. If you speak loudly, you're less likely to be stressed and you'll make less pronunciation problems. So,
yes, that's right. That was just great. Thank you very much.
Guess we're done here.
Yes, we are.
But just before we go, guys, remember, subscribe, like our YouTube channel. Get involved with us and write on the comments section what you would like to see and how excited you are to see these mock tests between 2 IELTS instructors.
Yes, and in the next video, which is going to be our last video on Part 3, we are going to work on some more topics, some more questions.
That's right.
And you will learn a lot. I'm not sure if we are going to skip a topic. I'm not sure. I don't know what's going to happen.
We'll try not to skip any topics.
Let's see. Maybe if you just don't miss the next video, you can see what happens in the next one.
So stay with us. We are Ross IELTS Academy, and see you next time.
See you soon.